This page is the cover of Total 64 magazine, proudly proclaiming itself the ultimate Nintendo 64 magazine. You've got a mighty fine cover here, featuring the toothy grin of a Trex, alongside the hero of Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. Looks like they're promising a prehistoric adventure of a lifetime, which for Turok probably means lots of shooting things that want to eat him. We've also got shoutouts to some absolute corkers. FIFA 64 promising you'll never walk alone. Let's hope not when you're trying to score a last-minute winner, eh? Then there's the hugely anticipated The Legend of Zelda 64, teased as the most eagerly awaited sequel since Mario. Quite the claim, but given it's Zelda, probably spot on. They're promising an in-depth feature, which is always nice. Rounding things off, there's a tempting competition to win an N64 console bundle with Super Mario 64, Pilotwings 64, and Shadows of the Empire. And down the bottom, a list of other games getting the treatment inside, including reviews of King of Pro Baseball and Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, previews for Hexen, Star Fox 64, Quake 64, and Clay Fighter 63 1/3, plus tips for MK Trilogy, Wave Race 64, and Pilotwings 64. A proper smorgasbord of N64 goodness. This page is the cover of the PlayStation Solutions Guide, proudly declaring itself the ultimate unofficial PlayStation Tips Guide. Looks like a must-have for any serious PlayStation fanatic back in the day, packed with walkthroughs, tips, and secrets to conquer those tough games. Inside this packed issue, you'll find a complete guide to the GDI missions in Command & Conquer, making sure you don't get flattened by Nod forces. There's also a guide for hitting the slopes in Cool Borders, and the first part of a solution for the epic RPG Suikoden. As a bonus, they've thrown in a giant Tomb Raider poster, perfect for decorating your bedroom wall, plus a guide to the first 4 levels for anyone who missed it last time. On top of all that, there are more games cracked, the very latest tips, datal codes, always essential, and a challenge set by the Solutions Boys. They've got coverage on Crash Bandicoot, Tekken 2, Lost Vikings 2, VR Pool, Mega Man X3, and plenty more. All this gaming wisdom could be yours for just £3.95. A tidy sum for hours of frustrating pixelated challenges made easy. This page is the cover for the PlayStation Solutions Guide, plastered with a formidable fighter and a montage of heroic characters, proclaiming it's on sale now, a handy companion for any PlayStation owner. This page serves as the magazine's contents guide, dominated by a rather menacing Trex that clearly means business. We're diving straight into the reviews section here, with Turok, Dinosaur Hunter front and center on page 26. Apparently they're pondering the sheer joy of dino bashing in their massive review. Then we move on to the sports field, with King of Pro Baseball reviewed on page 38, the first baseball game to step up to the plate on the N64. Rounding off the review highlights is Wayne Gretzky 3D hockey on page 42, where they're posing the critical question of whether the Great One is indeed the greatest player to make it onto the console. Plus keep an eye out for a chance to win an N64 console, and games detailed on page 16. Looks like a solid lineup this issue. This N64 magazine issue features a cover with a warrior illustration. Features include a deep dive into The Legend of Zelda 64, a review roundup, and tips for various games like Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Wave Race 64, and Pilotwings 64. Previews cover Hexen 64, Clay Fighter 64, Quake 64, Star Fox 64, and FIFA 64. Regular sections include editorial, news, subscriptions, back issues, and a look at the next issue, War Internang. This page is the magazine's editorial, welcoming us to the second issue of Total 64. The editors sound quite pleased with the reception of the first issue, thanking everyone for the mountain of letters they received. Apparently, the postman wasn't too happy about it. They promised to continue bringing us the latest news, previews, reviews, and tips, and highlight a few tweaks based on reader feedback, like adding game stats to reviews. They mention expanding their comprehensive player's guides to cover Mortal Kombat Trilogy, Wave Race 64, and Pilotwings 64, and confirm a full section dedicated to cheats. Big releases are promised in-depth coverage, with Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, Wave Race 64, and Pilotwings 64 singled out for special attention. The page features the magazine's title, the large welcome text, a rather enthusiastic model holding an N64, a cool dinosaur graphic, got to be Turok related, and circular screenshots showing off a football game, looks like FIFA 64, and Link from The Legend of Zelda. Seems like they're packing this issue with plenty of N64 goodness. This page delves into the technical wizardry powering the Nintendo 64 console, appropriately titled The Power Behind the Machine. The article credits Silicon Graphics and MIPS Technologies for the console's impressive capabilities, highlighting the reality immersion technology that allows for real-time, unconstrained 3D worlds. It touches on the clever tech, like anti-aliasing for smooth edges, depth buffering and texture mapping, essentially explaining why the N64 looked so darn good for its time. They even throw in quotes from the tech guys and Howard Lincoln from Nintendo of America waxing lyrical about how Silicon Graphics brought high-end computing power to the masses with the N64. Visually, the page features a huge dynamic graphic of Mario with wings, fitting for a Super Mario 64 focus. There's also a clear shot of the console and its rather unique controller. More importantly, it's packed with small but vibrant screenshots, all seemingly taken from Super Mario 64, showing off various levels, enemies like Goombas and a penguin, and different Mario transformations. It's clear this issue is really pushing the N64's graphical chops, especially with the star of the show Mario. This page jumps straight into the latest happenings, with a big 64 news splashed across the top, keeping us informed with urgent stop press updates. There's a handy section outlining the UK release dates for 1997, giving us a peek at what's supposedly hitting the shelves each month, though, as any seasoned gamer knows, these dates can shift faster than a racing cart on Rainbow Road. We've got the scoop on Blade and Barrel, a tank and helicopter simulation that sounds like pure multiplayer chaos, with up to 4 players blasting away. It's coming under a different name in the US apparently, Ultra Combat, which is a bit odd, but hey, as long as the destruction is satisfying, who cares what it's called? The screenshots look promisingly explosive. Then there's the hype around Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. This article confirms it was a massive success, noting how eager retailers couldn't even wait for the official release date. They just jumped the gun and started selling it early. Impatient lot, weren't they? The visuals teased here certainly make you want to get stuck into some prehistoric hunting. Looks like this issue is packed with news on the N64's growing lineup. This page is packed with the latest N64 buzz, leading with the rather upbeat, getting stronger headline. It seems the console is really making waves in the US market, according to those chaps at Electronics Boutique. Their sales chart apparently proves the N64 is dominating the top spots, which is fantastic news. We've got snapshots of Mario Kart 64 splashed all over the place, which makes sense as it's likely contributing to that strong performance. Then we dive into the slightly more serious pirate problems, detailing Nintendo's massive fight against those pesky counterfeiters. It sounds like they're losing a small fortune, over $800 million in 1996 alone. They're taking action against several countries heavily involved in churning out fakes, including China and Taiwan. And they've even slapped a company called Winbond with a lawsuit over dodgy chips. They're also going after those disc copier devices, which are obviously causing a bit of a headache for legitimate game sales. There are shots of the box art for Mario Kart 64 and Wave Race 64 here, likely examples of the games being ripped off. Off to the side, we've got a rather dense list of US release dates for 1997. Looks like there's a decent pipeline of games, supposedly heading our way throughout the rest of the year, spread across the various quarters. Plenty to look forward to, assuming they actually hit those dates, eh? This article previews upcoming US releases in Q2 1997, highlighting the Japanese RPG Mother 3, likely a 64DD release of Earthbound 64. Screenshots reveal a colorful 3D world with turn-based gameplay. Other features include easy save capabilities on 64DD. The article also lists early 1997 Japanese releases, including Star Fox 64. Finally, Multi-Racing Championship, an N64 arcade racer, is previewed. It boasts various vehicles, weather effects, and savable customizations, impressing the reviewer with its smooth gameplay and sharp visuals. Unreal, a highly anticipated first-person shooter from GT Interactive, is slated for release on the N64 by late 1997 or early 1998. The game promises a realistic 3D environment with smooth transitions, impressive lighting, and sound effects designed to create a frightening atmosphere. The article also highlights a robust N64 software lineup for 1997 and 1998, including notable titles like Body Harvest, Zelda 64, Yoshi's Island 64, Duke Nukem 3D, Mortal Kombat 4, and Quake 64. Other news includes a slight delay for Doom 64, a street renaming for Turok, Hudson's upcoming Dual Heroes and wrestling game for the 64DD, and a confirmed release date for Star Fox 64. Overall, the future of N64 software appears promising. This page is a feature on the highly anticipated Zelda 64, A Link to the Future, which was mentioned as a key title for the N64's future software lineup on the previous page. The page is dominated by a huge Zelda logo and a cool illustration of Link looking rather determined with his shield and sword. The text is clearly hyped about this game, stating that once in a while a game comes along which you know instantly is going to be a classic. They reckon this is just such a game, and they haven't even played it properly yet. Now that's confidence. The screenshots scattered around show off the game's 3D world, including Link himself, who's looking rather point-geared and fully rendered in 3D. We see him in various environments, facing off against some skeletal chaps, Stalfos perhaps, and other creatures. There are even some amusing captions about Link and his potential new arsenal, like a rather questionable loofah back scrub. It looks impressive, even shrouded in that classic N64 distance mist. Looks like the hype is real for this one. This page dives into the rich history of the Zelda series, setting the stage for the upcoming N64 title. It kicks off with a massive 64 graphic, making its point clear. The article reflects on nostalgia for older games when a console generation ends, suggesting that while cherished, older games often don't hold up graphically compared to modern tech. It argues that sometimes remembering them fondly is better than revisiting them. Then, it takes us on a whistle-stop tour of Link's previous adventures. There's a section on the original Legend of Zelda, describing it as a groundbreaking adventure that established the console RPG style. It also covers Adventures of Link, the sequel, which apparently improved graphics and gave Link new moves, though it kept the vast world to explore. The article highlights A Link to the Past on the SNES as the definitive entry, and a game that redefined the RPG genre, noting how many imitators failed to capture its atmosphere. Finally, it touches on Link's Awakening for the Game Boy, calling it a true handheld giant, and mentioning its success despite the flick screen movement returning. It seems this page is reminding us why the Zelda series is so beloved, building the hype for the next chapter by showcasing the strong legacy Link has built. A nice retrospective before the future arrives. This page follows on nicely from the Zelda history lesson, jumping straight into the future with a full feature on Zelda 64, A Link to the Future. It's plastered with tantalizing screenshots showing Link exploring the 3D world and getting into scraps with some rather large skeletal chaps. The article correctly identifies this as probably the most anticipated game on the N64, building on the series' legendary status. It delves into the technical side, confirming Zelda 64 is planned as a launch title for the 64DD disk drive add-on. Apparently, these magnetic discs hold a decent 64 MB and offer quicker access than CRADs, though the price and even Japanese release date for the drive are still up in the air. Makes you wonder if it'll ever see the light of day over here. We also get a peek at the gameplay, noting the camera will be handled entirely by the clever computer for maximum cinematic drama, which sounds rather promising for an epic adventure. The graphics get a nod too, drawing favorable comparisons to the groundbreaking Mario 64, reassuring us that all that development time is clearly paying off. Plus, the captions give us a good chuckle, hilariously taking the mickey out of Link's appearance, while warning him about things sneaking up in the new 3D world. Looks like the future of Hyrule is shaping up rather nicely. This page jumps headfirst into the most anticipated game on the horizon, with a huge feature on Zelda 64, A Link to the Future. The article stresses the long development time, promising stunning visuals with impressive lighting and boss characters that should cement its status as the game to own next Christmas. It highlights Nintendo's strategy of breathing new life into classic series like Zelda, contrasting it with Sega's handling of Sonic. However, the big talking point is the reliance on the 64DD disk drive add-on. While the discs offer benefits like save games and quicker access, the magazine voices concerns about the likely cost of the hardware and the bad history of console add-ons, questioning if people will splash out unless Zelda 64 proves to be an absolute must-have. The page is packed with screenshots showcasing the 3D world, including spooky skeletal enemies and ghostly figures, giving us a glimpse of the adventure ahead. The captions add a bit of classic British wit, having a chuckle at the baddies, and warning Link to leg it. Excitement is high, but that 64DD is definitely causing a bit of head-scratching. This page gives us a proper look at the star of the show, Super Mario 64. Front and center is a fantastic-looking 3D model of Mario himself, looking eager to jump into action. Above him sits the sleek Nintendo 64 console, complete with its distinctive controller ports. To the side we see a close-up of the N64 controller, showing off that iconic D-pad. Below Mario, we're treated to a few circular glimpses of Super Mario 64 gameplay. There's Mario taking flight with his wing cap, running through the familiar grassy fields outside Peach's castle, facing off against one of Bowser's mechanical contraptions, and even diving underwater. It's clear Nintendo is pulling out all the stops to bring their mascot into the 3D era, showcasing the variety of environments and abilities in the game. This is exactly what everyone expected and wanted, the Big N delivering on their promises, with their main man leading the charge on the new hardware. It looks like the classic character revamp mentioned previously is going rather well indeed. At the bottom we see this is from Total 64 Volume 1, Issue 2. This page is all about winning some serious kit. Right off the bat we've got a chance to bag ourselves an 64 console, plus copies of Super Mario, Pilot Wings and Shadows of the Empire. Excellent selection there. Visually, it features a massive close-up of the classic three-pronged N64 controller. Love that design, proper futuristic back in the day. There's also a little picture of Mario himself, looking rather pleased about the whole affair. The competition details are simple enough. Whack your answer on a postcard and send it off. The question they're asking is, which film trilogy is Shadows of the Empire based on? A bit of a no-brainer for any self-respecting fan that. The closing date is listed as the 6th of June 1997. Looks like a straightforward draw from the correct entries. Definitely worth a punt for a chance to get your hands on the console and some cracking launch titles. This page is all about Hexen 64, and it looks like a cracking good time. The headline asks what you get if you mix Doom with RPG, a sprinkle of witchery, and you've just cooked up the 3D fantasy blaster to beat them all. High praise indeed. It's powered by that tried and tested Doom engine, but this time they've chucked in RPG elements and set it in a mythical medieval world. The plot involves taking on the evil Serpent Riders. You get to pick your poison, playing as either a warrior, mage or wizard, which sounds like a neat twist on the usual run and gun. The game screenshots show off that familiar first-person perspective, complete with on-screen health and ammo, or mana I suppose being magical weapons. There are some gnarly-looking monsters, and dark, castle-like environments. The text also highlights that instead of your standard rockets from Doom or Quake, you're wielding magical weapons here. They even mention a split-screen option for a bit of mate blasting action, which is always a winner. Warranty. Looks like the reviewer thinks it's one of those proper magical geezers, and warns that it'll singe your hair off. Sounds like a chaotic, fun blast. It mentions GT Interactive as the publisher, and id Software/Rave as the developer, with the release date TBC. The next page gives us a much deeper look at Hexen 64. It covers the game's structure, which involves battling through levels of the Serpent Riders' undead hordes, aiming to take down the riders themselves. We get more detail on the character classes. The warrior is a close-quarters bruiser, the mage is a decent all-rounder, and the wizard is a bit fragile but packs the biggest magical punch. It sounds like you'll need to switch up your tactics depending on who you choose. Warrant. Apparently, the N64 version is a big leap over the PC when it comes to control and performance. It's said to run faster and smoother, with the N64 pad making movement and fighting much more intuitive than fiddling with a keyboard and mouse. But the real headline is the multiplayer. Hexen 64 is promising a massive 4-player mode on a single console via split screen, which is a stark contrast to Doom 64 having none. While there might be a bit of slowdown, the prospect of 4 mates tearing it up together sounds brilliant. On the visual side, it's expected to look the business thanks to the N64's power, even boasting anti-aliasing and mip mapping, promising a better look than the PC original. Overall, it seems like a solid port with some cracking N64 specific enhancements, particularly that epic multiplayer. This page dives into a preview of Clay Fighter 64, a fighting game for the Nintendo 64 that dares to be different by featuring characters made entirely of clay. The text contrasts the game with the genre's heavy hitters like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, suggesting that while those deliver serious fisticuffs, Clay Fighter leans into the absurd. The reviewer seems somewhat baffled by the idea, describing the characters as animated lumps of clay and funny caricatures of famous faces, questioning if people really want to play as bizarre creations instead of classic fighters. Screenshots show off the quirky cast, including a Statue of Liberty come to life, and a character who looks suspiciously like a drunken master type, complete with bottle. There's also a shot of some voodoo-themed shenanigans, reinforcing the game's undeniably strange sense of humor. It seems like the game is banking on its peculiar charm, but the reviewer isn't quite convinced it can cut the mustard against the established fighting game royalty. This page continues the preview of the utterly bizarre Clay Fighter 64, And blast it, the screenshots really do capture the game's unique, clay-animated look. We're treated to more glimpses of the incredibly weird roster, including the likes of Witch Doctor Man, Scary Ghost Lad, and the hilariously named Tube-Wrist Thumb Boy. Plus, there's a character who clearly enjoys a pint or 12 by the looks of him. The reviewer notes that the graphics are looking quite sharp, suggesting plenty of effort has gone into making full use of the N64's muscle. Apparently the in-game camera will even pan and zoom, which is a nice touch for a fighting game of this era. Gameplay-wise, it's sticking to a 2D plane but promises interactive stages, taking a leaf out of Mortal Kombat Trilogy's book. The big question looming over the game, however, is whether its quirky humor and oddball characters will be enough to make it a fighting game champion, or if it's just a novelty that quickly wears thin. Can it really compete as a 2D brawler on a console built for 3D? Looks like we'll all have to wait and see how this claymation chaos plays out. This page dives into a preview of Quake 64, the N64 port of the massively hyped PC first-person shooter. The feature talks about the absolute frenzy surrounding the original game's release, noting the dedication of countless websites and the general excitement it generated. We're shown several screenshots depicting the game's dark, gothic environments, and a few of the grotesque creatures you'll encounter. The reviewer describes Quake as a tense, wholly immersive, genuinely terrifying experience, highlighting the impressive attention to detail. They note that selecting levels and difficulty is straightforward, and that gameplay feels intuitive, with interactive elements triggering just by touching them. The graphics are even called breathtaking. There are also a couple of amusing captions, one suggesting shooting a boastful enemy rather than listening to him, and another joking about people leaving a button in the church collection plate after playing. Williams is listed as both the publisher and developer, with the release date and price still TBC at this point. The big question, of course, is how well this intense PC classic will translate to the N64. This Quake 64 preview details the game's weapons, levels, and visuals. The levels are praised for their intricate design, featuring secret areas and challenging layouts. The arsenal includes the axe, shotgun, nail gun, grenade launcher, rocket launcher, and powerful thunderbolts. The review highlights the impressive graphics, leveraging the N64's capabilities for stunning visuals. The gameplay is described as requiring strategic thinking, memory, and accurate shooting. Interactive elements, like elevators and teleporters, further enhance the experience. The varied environments, including underwater and lava sections, are also noted. A full review is promised upon release. The next page dives headfirst into a preview of Star Fox 64. You've got a big old picture of Fox McCloud looking rather sharp, alongside various screenshots showing off the new graphics and some gameplay sequences. The review harks back to the original SNES Star Fox, remembering its graphical prowess thanks to the Super FX chip, but noting its limitations, linear levels, and a short lifespan. Fast forward to the N64, and we're promised a definitive update. The third dimension apparently improves things a bleeding lot actually, mate. Key highlights include vastly improved graphics, a less linear structure offering different routes, and new vehicles beyond the classic R-Wing. The story is presented better with cutscenes, which is a nice touch. They're particularly excited about the 4-player split-screen mode, comparing it to the brilliant setup in Mario Kart 64, perfect for settling scores with your pals. The only real niggle mentioned is a misting effect in the visuals, seemingly reminiscent of Turok, but they hope this will be sorted before release. Overall, the preview is very positive, eagerly anticipating the full game. This page is an online portal, the digital face of Rapide Publishing. At the very top, you can't miss the bright red URL, proudly displaying http://www.rapide.co.uk. The background is dark, featuring a cool wireframe globe graphic, suggesting a worldwide web presence. Naturally, a line extends from the globe with the text Rapid Online, confirming this is their internet hub. Below that, there's a clear menu of options for visitors to navigate. You've got your standard links, the essential email contact, and rather importantly for us gamers, game reviews. There are also sections for magazines, company news, and the classic About Us. At the bottom, the page lists the company's physical address in Devon, UK, alongside their phone and fax numbers, and crucially, an email address, mail@rapide.co.uk. It's all presented in a clean, slightly futuristic font, fitting the late 90s tech vibe. Simple, effective, points you where you need to go. Right then, let's see what reviews they've got tucked away. This page is a proper spread dedicated to Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, And blimey, look at that artwork. You've got Turok himself, looking rather ripped with his bone necklace and headband, squaring up against a massive, snarling dinosaur. It's a dynamic piece, really captures the whole man versus prehistoric beast vibe the game is going for. At the top, there are a couple of small screenshots giving you a peek at the actual gameplay, showing off the environments, and maybe a glimpse of the action. The page clearly states the game title, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, right there at the top. Down in the corner you can see the page number, 26, and the issue details, Total 64, Volume 1, Issue 2. It's all about showcasing this absolute classic. Looks like they're giving it some serious visual treatment. This page kicks off the actual review or preview text for Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, following on from the spiffing artwork on the previous page. You've still got those small screenshots across the top, showing some in-game environments and, I dare say, a bit of dinosaur bother. Below the giant, imposing title text for the game, there's a rather large image of Turok riding a Triceratops, which frankly looks utterly bonkers in the best possible way, while another dude is running alongside, presumably wondering how he got stuck doing the legwork. The text itself starts right off with a cracking comparison to Jurassic Park, suggesting that if Turok had been knocking about during Spielberg's film production, the whole thing would have been sorted in a mere 5 minutes. High praise indeed. It then tells you to brace yourself for a bizarre world of renegades, bionic raptors, and the N64's greatest hero to date. Blimey, that's quite the build-up. It's clearly setting the stage for what they think is going to be a truly massive and epic adventure. Down at the bottom corner you've got the magazine details, Total 64, Volume 1, Issue 2, page 27. Looks like they're pulling out all the stops for this game. The next page delivers a cracking image of a Trex having a rather bad day, judging by the arrow sticking out its side, all under the title, Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. We've got Justin's take here, and he's clearly rather chuffed with the game, even admitting he's not usually into this sort of thing. He highlights the superb graphics when things are moving, and the atmospheric sounds, but the real talking point for him is the sheer number of ways your enemies can meet their demise. He finds it immensely satisfying to see the chaps trying to kill you truly suffering. If you're on the fence, he reckons you should definitely get this one, as it'll keep you busy until Doom 64 drops. The main review text reminisces about a childhood fascination with dinosaurs, suggesting Jurassic Park brought them back into the public eye, and now Iguana have unleashed Turok on us. Apparently, Turok himself is no newcomer, originating from an acclaimed comic way back in 1954, when Elvis was still a relative unknown. The game itself started life as a launch title prospect for the old Ultra 64 back in 1995. Scattered across the page are a few screenshots showing some action, spotting a creature, an enemy biting the dust, and navigating some rather hot-looking lava. Poor Turok, navigating dodgy terrain. This page continues the Turok, Dinosaur Hunter review, giving us a closer look at the protagonist and his rather impressive arsenal. We see Turok himself, looking ready for action, and as the caption notes, quite well preserved given his long history. The text delves into Turok's quest to thwart the evil campaigner by collecting the pieces of the ancient Chronoceptor. It places the game firmly within the first-person shooter lineage, referencing Doom as the genre's pioneer, and mentioning others like Duke Nukem 3D and Alien Trilogy. The Lost Land offers a variety of environments beyond simple jungle, featuring dark catacombs, strange ruins, and even underwater areas. Turok certainly has his hands full with a diverse bestiary, from human enemies and velociraptors straight out of Jurassic Park, to more substantial foes like the Tyrannosaurus and Dilophosaurus, plus some less glamorous but equally nasty underground creatures. Then there's the armory, a showcase of the weaponry at your disposal. From the humble bows and arrows and pistol, you quickly upgrade to more destructive options like the shotgun, the utterly ridiculous quad rocket launcher, and the rapid-fire auto shotgun. You've also got the sci-fi pulse rifle, the room-clearing fusion cannon, and the utterly devastating minigun. For close work or sheer power, there's the knife, grenade launcher, and the particle accelerator. And let's not forget the goal itself, the Chronoceptor, looking suitably powerful. It's clear you'll need every single one of these tools to survive the prehistoric onslaught. This page continues the review of Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, giving us a deeper dive into the gameplay and presentation. We get a personal take from James, who reckons it's the N64's first Doom clone, and looks pretty swish, especially the enemy animations and weapon effects. However, he's not chuffed about the levels being a bit samey, and the fog obscuring the view, calling it a letdown that doesn't justify the price tag. The main review text echoes some of this, talking about the variety of weapons and how cool they look when you select them, appearing with all sorts of whirring bits. While the levels are large and can be a bit daunting, the automapper is handy for not getting lost. Graphically, it's deemed as good as anything seen so far, with the enemy sprites getting a special mention for looking solid and animating convincingly, particularly when they meet their maker. Screenshots scattered across the page show off various scenes, from taking down foes and relaxing in leafy spots, to witnessing the spectacle of a small nuclear explosion and the messy aftermath of a battle with blood spattered about. Looks like a mixed bag, cracking visuals and weapons, but perhaps a bit repetitive for some tastes. This page continues the deep dive into Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, and good heavens, it sounds like things get rather messy. The review gleefully details the incredibly gory death animations, mentioning enemies staggering about, spurting blood from necks, writhing on the floor, and even getting blown completely to pieces by certain weapons, leaving a right bloody trail behind. It seems Nintendo allowed quite a bit more violence than you might expect. They also address the infamous Fogheddon, humorously suggesting it's less misty, and more like you're having a nap staring at clouds. Apparently, it's there to stop distant objects from popping into view, which is fair enough, but it creates a rather claustrophobic feeling, despite the levels being quite large. The backgrounds aren't always up to scratch, but close-up details in the Lost Land are fine. The weapons sound like a riot though, with plenty to choose from, many of which make a heck of a racket. Screenshots back all this up, showing off massive explosions, powerful energy weapons streaking across the screen, and the general chaotic action of shooting, climbing, and running that keeps Turok a busy man. It's clear the visuals, especially the enemy reactions and weapon effects, were a major selling point, even if the level design and fog didn't impress everyone. This page continues the deep dive into Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, featuring a cracking illustration of Turok himself going toe-to with a rather angry-looking dinosaur. The review commentary is split, with Nick's comment praising the polished formula, incredible graphics and intelligent level design, stating that despite the simple core gameplay, the variety in gruesome enemy deaths, from exploding into pulp to writhing in agony and spurting blood, makes it gruesome. Great fun. The main text echoes this, highlighting how developer Iguana has breathed new lease of life into the genre, with fine touches and strong presentational polish. They emphasize that considerable thought went into the level design, making it more than just a mindless shooter, with exploration sometimes needed to progress, though the map helps when you get stuck. Ultimately, it possesses that elusive quality that makes you genuinely want to see what happens next, especially with all the glorious enemy dispatching. A few screenshots show off some varied environments and the game's visuals, one featuring a rather snarky caption about having a fancy-looking gun to rival any fancy archways. This page serves up a tasty helping of cheats for treats, showing off some of the daft modes available in Turok, Dinosaur Hunter. You've got pen and ink mode turning everything into line drawings, which looks rather swish, and the glorious disco dancing mode for some groovy enemy moves. But frankly, the star of the show, as the screenshots prove, is undoubtedly Big Head mode. Utterly ridiculous, brilliant stuff. The review continues with, moving on up, discussing the controls. The analog stick handles turning, while the C buttons are used for forward, back, and strafing. A and B cycle through weapons, and the trigger pulls the boomstick. The reviewer finds the analog stick control a bit fiddly for subtle movement, suggesting a D-pad might have been better, but they still praise the smooth animation, lighting, and the absolutely splendidly gruesome ways enemies meet their maker, questioning if that's brain or spleen flying about. Finally, we hit the verdict. Turok is named, published by Acclaim, developed by Iguana, for one player, priced at £64.99, and out now as a UK shoot-'em-up. The scores are impressive. Graphics bag a stonking 92, sound gets a solid 87 for the dino and jungle noises, playability nails a 94 for the weapon variety, and the overall score comes in at a cracking 93. Seems they were rather impressed, eh? This marks page 33 of Total 64 Volume 1, Issue 2. The next page kicks off with a preview of FIFA 64, proudly announcing football is coming home again courtesy of E! The page features a large FIFA logo, and several screenshots showcasing the gameplay, from on-pitch action and goal celebrations to corner kicks, with captions praising scissor kicks, and ways to score from set pieces. The text dives into the long-running FIFA series history, even bringing up the legendary, is Ronnie Rosenthal crap or what? Debate, a proper football chinwag classic. It also reflects on the matchday experience, contrasting the old standing terraces with the all-seater, modern stadia. Looks like EA's bringing their hefty football pedigree to the N64 pitch. This page continues the FIFA 64 preview, diving deeper into EA's footballing pedigree and the challenge it faces on the N64. The reviewer, clearly a fan of a good kickabout, recounts FIFA's journey from its groundbreaking isometric debut on the Mega Drive to its various updates, even the slightly ill-fated 3D version. However, they're quick to point out that Konami's offerings, like the absolutely cracking J-League Perfect Striker and their 64-bit efforts, are seriously strong contenders. FIFA's usual reliable presentation and updates are mentioned, though the core game modes are perhaps a tad predictable. While the N64's power allows for smoother visuals, EA will need more than just a lick of paint to beat Konami's on-pitch mastery. Screenshots show off various moments of gameplay, from tactical setups to goalmouth action, including a cheeky caption questioning a ball's gravity-defying hang time. Fingers crossed E's baby steps up to the plate. This page is a preview for the upcoming mission, Impossible Game on the N64. The writer kicks off by having a bit of a moan about how awful movie time games were back in the SNES era, so they're hoping this one breaks the mold. Apparently, the game is based on the movie and the classic TV show, following the plot loosely. You'll play as Ethan Hawke, the chap played by Tom Cruise, sent on 6 missions, which you can tackle in any order. It's described as a first-person affair, but with more depth than just blasting everything, involving character interaction and multiple ways to approach objectives like recovering items or reaching locations. They even hint it looks a bit like Doom at first glance, but promise it's got a lot more going on under the surface. Failure is apparently not an option, as messing up a mission gets you instantly incriminated and hunted down by the secret services. Cheery thought, eh? The screenshots show off some familiar scenes from the film, including the iconic suspended dive, and the preview mentions the game will keep the gadgets from the series and is expected to have high enemy AI. Sounds like our boy Ethan, like Bond, is a man of many talents, including being a master of disguise. This page continues the deep dive into the upcoming mission, Impossible Game. Apparently, our man Ethan Hawke is not only skilled in fisticuffs and firepower, but also gets married to a lass from the last Batman flick. The developers are boasting about a new AI language called Soul, promising characters will react logically, like legging it if you start blasting away in a room full of people. Movement and camera are compared to Mario's first 3D adventures, which is people. Interesting. It sounds like you'll be guiding Ethan with the analog stick, with the camera following suit, ensuring you get a good view of the action apparently. But the real stars are the gadgets. Forget Bond, this game's got more gizmos than you can shake a stick at, from explosive bubblegum, chew it, gob it, count to 10, boom, to poison darts. The reviewer even gives the bubblegum the Office Fave Gadget Award. The game is expected in 2 flavors, a cartridge and a redesigned version for the N64 disk drive, with the latter potentially offering online deathmatches. Nice. They mention the 6 secret missions again, stressing the need for thought over just blasting, unlike your typical first-person shooters. Let's hope this time lives up to the hype and isn't another movie game disaster. This page swings into action with a look at King of Pro Baseball, a game that dares you to think of America's favorite pastime and then picture players with absolutely massive heads. The article kicks off celebrating the game's lovely intro sequences, showcasing shots of these charmingly disproportionate players. The reviewer delves into the appeal of American sports like baseball, contrasting them with other sports, let's say. We see screenshots of team selection screens, highlighting quirky teams like the Moonlight Wolves, along with menus showing player stats and gameplay action featuring the distinctive big-headed characters. It seems your success hinges on choosing the right little big-head boys, based on their skill. The reviewer appears quite taken with it, suggesting this could be a top-tier baseball game ready to dominate the N64 scene. This page continues the deep dive into King of Pro Baseball, confirming that yes, the players do indeed have massively oversized craniums, which the reviewer finds a bit off-putting to start with, bless them. We see various gameplay screenshots showing different camera angles, from a wide pitch view to a catcher's perspective, highlighting the game's 3D stadiums which are apparently quite well designed and detailed. The review gets into the nitty-gritty of the graphics, calling them cute and sweet, despite the disproportionate nappers. The gameplay is touched upon, mentioning the tricky batting that apparently becomes second nature, and a brief, slightly comical explanation of baseball rules for the uninitiated. There's even a section about the big head action, where the game injects some humor with fielders dropping catches or getting hit by the ball, a rarity in most simulations apparently. It sounds like a charmingly quirky take on America's pastime. This page continues the review of King of Pro Baseball, showcasing more delightful screenshots of the game's action and its rather distinctively headed characters. The review highlights the impressive variety of stadiums on offer, ranging from standard grassy fields and massive indoor domes to, rather surprisingly, a beach. Apparently, batting with a view of the sparkling sea and pesky seagulls can be quite the distraction. Who knew? We learn about the depth hidden beneath the seemingly simple graphics, with options to select from a decent number of real teams, or even build your own dream team. There's also a mention of pre-game speeches, including the rather inspirational tale of a poor sick little boy who wants you to win. A true tearjerker, I'm sure. The game offers season play, practice, and 4-player exhibition modes, with practice being strongly recommended to get your eye in before facing the big leagues. Finally, Justin weighs in with his personal take, candidly admitting his complete lack of knowledge about baseball and the Japanese language. Despite this slight handicap, he declares the game instantly playable and hugely enjoyable, particularly in 2-player, confidently proclaiming it the best baseball game on the market, based on his admittedly limited experience. Sounds like the N64 sports fan simply can't be without it, according to Justin. This page continues the review of King of Pro Baseball, hilariously dubbing the distinctive characters funny little monkeys, and describing them as some of the most unsightly little geezers ever seen, comparing them to the birds in a rather questionable club. The review then dives into the gameplay at last, detailing the core mechanics. Batting depends on a player's average, while fielding is a straightforward affair involving jumping, diving, and using the K buttons for throws, a simple yet brilliant system they reckon. Pitching offers up to 9 different types controlled by nudging the analog stick, though the reviewer notes running with those massive wobbly heads can be a touch tricky. This game apparently shines brightest in 2-player mode, though you can have up to 4 folks joining in. While batting takes a bit of practice, it soon becomes second nature. Rounding things off is the verdict, confirming the name, publisher, Nintendo, and developer, Imagineer. It gets impressive scores across the board. Graphics get an 85, acknowledging they're nice despite the rather silly massive heads. Sound scores an 80, conjuring the atmosphere with virtual hot dogs and peanuts. Playability gets a cracking 91 for being simple and effective, leading to an overall score of 91. The final word? It's quite possibly the best baseball game ever seen. Highly recommended, especially for fans of the Japanese league, although newcomers might find the options a bit overwhelming initially. The next page kicks off a review for Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, boldly declaring it, the fastest, most violent sport known to man. Hits the N64 full-on right in the chops, mate. Blimey. Sounds intense. The review text makes a strong case for ice hockey being the most exciting spectator sport, far surpassing football, which they seem less impressed with, calling it a game for wimps compared to hockey's total and utter hardness. The action is described as thick, fast, and anything but boring or slow, highlighting the sheer violence of players slamming opponents into the sides of the rink and the likelihood of a good old fight breaking out. Apparently console versions of hockey games are surprisingly successful despite the game's violent nature, and this N64 debut lives up to that standard. Screenshots show the game from various angles, highlighting the honest action and game features like different camera perspectives and a handy arrow indicating which player you're controlling, a feature not in the real game, they point out. There's also a large graphic of the name Wayne, and a smaller image of the game's box art, featuring the great man himself. All in all, it seems they're pretty chuffed with this first N64 hockey offering. This page continues the look at Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, proclaiming it midway to happiness. It seems the lovely geezers at Midway, the same lot behind Mortal Kombat no less, have brought an official NHL license to the N64. That means proper teams and proper players, unlike some shoddy efforts out there. The review doubles down on the sheer brutality of the sport, humorously questioning if ice hockey has the highest injury rate, even comparing it to elastic band flicking hilarious. They suggest if you fancy a broken leg and some time off work, this might be the game for you. The game apparently captures the icebound slaughter and excitement brilliantly, including the bit where you aim to break a few bones while whacking the puck into the net. You've got a massive amount of teams and options to dive into. There's even a shout out to the ref, calling it a nasty job not worth £1 million, mate. And fittingly for a game from the Mortal Kombat crew, there's a section dedicated to the fighting, cheekily titled Round 1 Fight, promising all the on-rink nastiness you could dream of. The screenshots scattered across the page show everything from intense goalmouth scrambles and big hits, to the end-of-period screen, and the inevitable fisticuffs. Looks like Midway really leaned into the physical side of the sport. The next page continues the review of Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey, diving deeper into what's on offer. It seems you can pick an actual NHL side or craft your own team, then throw them into an exhibition match, a full season, or even the playoffs, which sound like a proper knockout challenge. The controls are flagged as a bit tricky at first, having different setups for offense and defense, but apparently, once you've wrestled with them, they become spot-on for smacking that puck about. And speaking of smacking, the review confirms this game leans heavily into the rough stuff. You can lampoon players into the wall, trip them up, and generally play the dirtiest hockey you can imagine. When players get properly riled up, they drop the gloves and have a proper tear-up, complete with specific fighting moves. There's also a bit from Nick, who seems to completely disagree with the main reviewer, calling hockey dirty and lacking grace, preferring the Jaw League instead. Plus, a section pondering the fearsome looks of the real-life NHL players featured in the game, stating they're a tough-looking lot. Screenshots show the action, a score update, and the player selection screens. This page continues the Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey review, kicking off with a look at the frankly vast array of camera options available to capture the action from every angle. The visuals are clearly a highlight, described as the prettiest hockey game they've seen, with well-designed players and neat touches like real-time lighting effects that follow the puck. The review notes you can still lampoon blokes into the wall, which ties into the rough-and-tumble nature mentioned previously, and even comments on a particularly chunky player model. Despite a slight niggle that it might not feel drastically different from every other hockey sim out there, the overall feeling is overwhelmingly positive. The reviewer loved it, hailing it as a very enjoyable sports sim that captures the essence of the sport well, recommending readers get down the shop sharpish to grab a copy. The scores are certainly healthy too. Graphics hit a cracking 89, apparently just like being in an arcade without the dodgy smells. Sound gets a solid 85, promising you can actually hear the bones snap. Playability rockets to a near-perfect 93, warning you'll need to book a holiday to stop playing, and the overall score lands a very impressive 90. Midway seemed to have knocked it out of the park with this one. This page delves straight into the much-anticipated reviews section, highlighting the difficulty of picking the best games when the N64 finally hit UK shores. Top billing goes to none other than Super Mario 64, hyped as potentially the greatest video game ever. And according to the reviewer, it certainly comes close. They gush about Nintendo bringing Mario to life in a stunning 3D world, praising his movement including somersaults and flying, and calling the gameplay infuriatingly addictive. It's clearly a massive hit, earning a massive overall score of 96. Right next door, things take a rather different turn with Cruisin' USA. The reviewer opens with a rhetorical question about time travel, feeling like they're stuck in the late 80s. It's described as a poor conversion of an arcade game, with sluggish graphics and terrible playability, apparently thinner than a matchstick. Ouch. It seems Midway didn't quite hit the mark with this one like they did with their hockey sim on the previous page. Cruisin' USA manages a rather disappointing overall score of 59. Plenty of screenshots show off both games, for better or worse. This page jumps into a roundup of a couple more N64 titles. First up, we've got Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire, and crikey, the reviewer is proper gutted about this one. Everyone loves Star Wars, right? So a 64-bit version should be mega, but apparently it's a big disappointment, feeling like second-rate sub-games just shoved together. Graphically, they reckon it's nothing special, looking like a SNES game with texture mapping. Ouch. The reviewer even warns that if Nintendo keeps churning out shoddy stuff like this, the N64 might be in trouble. It limps away with an overall score of just 61. Next to it is Killer Instinct Gold. Now this one gets a slightly better reception, scoring 69 overall. Playing it on ludicrous speed sounds like a rush. Initially it feels like pure button mashing, but the reviewer admits there's more depth than that, though they reckon it's still not got the feel of Tekken. They point out the animation can be a bit jerky, and there's some slowdown, especially when huge combos are flying, which makes you wonder if the console can really handle it. A little note suggests the game trades style for speed. So not quite the fighting savior, but definitely a step up from the Star Wars effort. This page jumps into a roundup of a few more N64 titles. First up, we've got Pilot Wings, and fair play, the reviewer went in expecting to slate it but ended up absolutely loving it. Apparently it's super relaxing just floating around, with varied missions and loads of cool flying contraptions like jetpacks and hang gliders. They reckon it's the closest most people will ever get to the real thing and slapped a cracking 95 on it, calling it a must-buy. Next is Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Not such good news here, as the reviewer seems a bit baffled why it's even on the N64. They feel it's the same as all the other versions and reckon it's not what the console is about, suggesting you wait for a decent 3D fighter instead. Definitely not one to impress your mates with, apparently, and it only scored a 78. Finally, Justice League Perfect Striker gets a look in. Despite some apparently hilarious player animation after fouls, the actual gameplay sounds pretty solid, particularly in two-player mode. It's got all the essentials like decent passing, shots, and celebrations. It seems like a worthy addition to the footy sim genre, and earned itself a rather impressive 93, with the reviewer urging you to go out and buy it. This page continues the roundup of N64 games, featuring a trio of titles. First up is Mario Kart 64. The reviewer notes the expected graphical improvements and new tracks but seems a bit jaded, suggesting it's just a souped-up version of the original. However, they concede it's still fun and incredibly addictive, especially when you've got mates round for some multiplayer action. Despite the reservations about its originality, it still pulls in a solid 93. Next we have St. Andrew's Golf. Crikey, this one doesn't fare so well. The review is pretty damning, calling it just golf, and likening the gameplay mechanics to something you might see on an ancient ZX Spectrum. They slam the graphics and call it a poor excuse to cash in, hilariously suggesting you go play the real sport instead. Unsurprisingly, it scores a rather measly 58. Finally, Wave Race 64 makes a splash. This one is clearly a winner, described as extremely playable and unusually original. The reviewer is practically raving about it, stating that if you're into racing, this is the one to go for on the N64. It sounds like pure jet ski joy on the water, earning itself a cracking 96. This page jumps over to the world of music, showcasing the third issue of Sessions magazine. Looks like they're pulling out all the stops, promising exclusive interviews with some top names like James, Ben Folds 5, Dubstar, Red Cross, and Symposium. But the real kicker? Every copy comes with a free 10-track CD, featuring tunes from many of the artists covered, including The Egg and Ballroom. On top of that, you'll find gig and tour reviews, plus a whole life and style section. They confidently ask what more you could possibly want in life, and honestly, for music lovers, that sounds like a pretty decent haul for one magazine. This page is a full-page advert for Sessions Music magazine, highlighting a free 10-track CD with featured artists like James and Red Cross, plus exclusive interviews, all promoting the total music experience. This page is all about getting you to subscribe to Total 64, offering 12 issues for the price of 9. Not bad, eh? It highlights the magazine's key features, in-depth reviews of N64 games, boasting rigorous testing to make sure scores are truly earned. You can see snippets hinting at games like King of Pro Baseball. The other big draw is the tips and solutions section, promising expert help to conquer tough levels and dishing out hints, tips, and cheats. The page gives a tantalizing look at the cheats available for Mortal Kombat Trilogy, including secrets like playing as hidden characters and unlocking various bonus modes, perfect for gaining an edge in the arena. Looks like they've got your back whether you need help beating a game or just want to mess about with some cheeky codes. And look, Mario's even popping up with wings, ready to take flight with his copy. This page is a subscription form, allowing you to sign up for 12 issues of Total 64 magazine for either £35 in the UK or £45 elsewhere in Europe. Get saving! This page is packed with secrets for Mortal Kombat Trilogy. Forget just picking your favorite fighter, here you can learn how to play as Shao Kahn or even the beastly Motaro, though only for a single match it seems. There's also the code to get Human Smoke, which is a handy one. Boring Kikiri, but the real prize is unlocking the secret options menu. Follow the steps shown, and you can gain access to level select, toggle throws, and get an unlimited run bar. Pretty useful stuff if you ask me. They even throw in a note about Chameleon and how he switches between different ninjas, so beware. And if you've managed a babality, you can even reverse it. Plenty here to keep you busy trying them out. Looks like they've got shots of various characters in action, including a rather scary looking Motaro, and a cardboard cutout training dummy classic. This page continues with the wealth of Mortal Kombat Trilogy secrets. Beyond just character unlocks, you're getting the lowdown on combat codes here. It explains how to enter them using the versus screen, detailing which button corresponds to which digit for player 1 and 2. There's a whole list of codes for altering gameplay, like enabling quick uppercut recovery, toggling throws and blocking, going silent, or even starting with half or quarter energy. Handy for a quick laugh or evening the odds, eh? They also share some hidden mini-games, including playing Space Invaders during a match in Pit 1, or setting up matches to play Pong and Galaga. Bizarre but true, there are even codes for text messages to appear. And then, the big man himself, Shao Kahn. While playable, the page notes he's a bit of a sluggish lump with limited moves and no fatalities, which sounds a tad disappointing for the final boss. Still, they list his basic attacks like the hammer, fireball, pick up and slam, and his various shoulder charges, plus his rather unique insult and laugh moves. Plenty to experiment with here, beyond the standard roster. This page dives into the moves and secrets for a few more characters from Mortal Kombat Trilogy. First up is Cyrax, described as one for the MK Pro only, due to his special moves being a bit tricky to master. You get the rundown on his net throw, teleports, and those rather annoying bomb attacks, plus a list of his combos and all his finishes, including his self-destruct fatality. Next we have Ermac, who apparently started life as an error message in MK2 before becoming a full-fledged fighter. They highlight his teleport punch and lift move, along with his combos and a plethora of finishing moves like his telekinetic slam fatality. Finally, Baraka makes his return, the chap with the massive blades and rather sharp teeth. The description notes he hasn't changed much since MK2, still relying on that hack and slash style. His spark, spin, shredder and swipe moves are covered, as are his combos, and all his gruesome, or sometimes silly, finishing options like the head pop fatality and porcupine animality. Each character section includes screenshots showing them in action and some of their special or finishing moves. Plenty of ways to utterly humiliate your opponent then. This Mortal Kombat Trilogy character breakdown analyzes Jax, Johnny Cage and Jade. Jax is a strong, versatile fighter, though his double missile move is problematic. Johnny Cage is criticized as the game's worst fighter, with poor moves and aiming. Jade is praised as a formidable character, boasting strong moves, easy combos, and brutal fatalities. Screenshots illustrate key moves for each fighter. This page continues the Mortal Kombat Trilogy character guide, this time breaking down the brutal Kano and the deadly Kitana. Kano gets top marks as the coolest character, described as nasty with gory finishing moves and easy to pick up, perfect for unwinding after a rough day. He's tough as nails, sharp as knives. You get the idea. The page lists his various special moves and devastating finishes, including the I-beam fatality and tarantula animality. Next up is Kitana, dubbed the babe from the flick. Her moves and combos are labeled a bit tricky, but the reviewer seems willing to overlook that for other reasons. It's also noted, perhaps unnecessarily, that economic use of fabric is a hallmark of the female characters. Her fan toss, fan lift, and square wave punch are detailed, along with her finishes like the kiss of death and head pop fatalities, plus her dragon animality. Screenshots show both characters in action and striking poses. This page continues the Mortal Kombat Trilogy character breakdown, diving into Kabal, Kung Lao, and Milena. Kabal gets a bit of a rough ride, described as pretty useless and having bad breath, apparently best skipped over for literally anyone else. Still, he's got his signature spin move and some wild finishes, including a soul scream fatality and a rather amusing marshmallow friendship. Next up is Kung Lao, the chap in the distinctive hat. He's called a prat with dodgy moves, though he's quite speedy. His main redeeming feature seems to be his slice death move. Like the others, he has various finishes listed, from the body separation fatality to a friendship involving a dog. Finally, Milena is highlighted. Despite the note about her rather toothy grin, she's praised as a damn good fighter, with speedy, powerful moves and even some easy finishing moves. Apparently, with teeth like hers, it's no shock she breaks mirrors, which is fittingly her friendship move. The page includes screenshots showing the characters performing moves and finishes, giving you a peek at their styles and the brutal, or occasionally silly, ways they finish fights. This page continues our deep dive into the Mortal Kombat Trilogy roster, bringing you the lowdown on Nightwolf, Noob Saibot, and Rain. First up is Nightwolf, who apparently is a top-tier character if you put the practice in, otherwise he's a bit of a pain to get to grips with. He's got his trademark arrow special and hatchet uppercut, plus a reflect move and shoulder charges. The page lists his various combos and finishes, including the Beam Me Up fatality, a wolf animality, and a babality that involves Raiden, and a MK2 drop bizarre. Screenshots show him victorious and mid-fight. Then there's Noob Saibot, described as perfect for beginners because his moves are straightforward and easy to master, even boasting simple yet powerful combos. The reviewer cheekily suggests, even my bird can play using good old newbie boy. His specials include the classic fireball and teleport throw, with a range of finishes like the ball spin fatality, a bowling animality, and a babality. You can see him throwing projectiles and performing a finisher in the screenshots. Finally, we have Rain, who despite being limited on the special moves front, has a cracking fireball that's essential for setting up combos. The reviewer calls him a top geezer for this tactic. Alongside the fireball, he has a special roundhouse and lightning move. His section covers combos and finishes, such as the multiple lightning fatality, an elephant animality, and a spring garden friendship. Screenshots show him in action, including a victory pose. This Mortal Kombat Trilogy guide profiles Raiden, Reptile, and Scorpion. Raiden, returning from MK2, is described as decent but not spectacular, with weak combos and specials. Reptile, also MK2 veteran, is lauded as a strong fighter with effective forceball and acid spit moves, leading to powerful finishes. Scorpion, unchanged from previous iterations, is praised for ease of use and powerful combos like teleport punch and spear throw. The guide highlights key moves, combos, and finishes for each character. The next page continues the Mortal Kombat Trilogy character guide, this time focusing on the shape-shifting sorcerer Shang Tsung, the Red Rubber Ninja Sector, and the forearm Shokan Princess Shiva. Shang Tsung returns with his classic fireballs, but the write-up highlights his need to morph into other fighters to be truly effective, suggesting Scorpion and Shang himself make a lethal cocktail when used together. Then there's Sector, hailed as potentially the best of the cyber ninjas. His homing missile gets a nod as a useful tool, especially after pulling off a combo, although the reviewer seems less impressed with his other moves, deeming them useless, despite him being a recommended fighter. Finally, we meet Shiva, Goro's sister, described rather bluntly as not the most attractive, but a nasty piece of work. Her forearms make her a force, but the text implies she's perhaps better suited for experienced players due to her complexity. Like the previous page, details are provided for each character's standard moves, combos, and devastating finishes, along with some action-packed screenshots and character art. A solid continuation of the guide for anyone looking to master these warriors. The next page carries on with the Mortal Kombat Trilogy fighter breakdown, this time covering the Sonic Scream Queen Sindel, the Special Forces operative Sonya, and the mysterious human Smoke. First up is Sindel, noted for her rather splendid whipping hair. The reviewer reckons she's a bit more Bride of Frankenstein than a trained fighter, suggesting her moves are limited and she lacks the raw power of others, though she does have some nifty combos listed. The guide details her fireball, fly, and scream moves, along with her frankly brutal-looking fatalities like the hair spin and scream. Next is Sonya, described as a nifty little fighter. She's quick and handy in the air, which is always a bonus, although the writer notes she doesn't quite pack the punch of some others. Still, her ring toss, leg grab, and square wave punch sound solid, and the guide helpfully includes her combos and finishes like the Kiss of Death fatality and a flower friendship. Finally, we have Human Smoke, a ninja bloke who appears to be perpetually puffing away. He's compared to Scorpion but perhaps not quite as cool, though his combos are deemed nice and simple. His spear, teleport punch, and air throw moves are covered, as are his fatalities including the rather gruesome head pop. There's even a cheeky note below commenting on his smoky habit being a bit ridiculous. It's another solid set of character profiles with plenty of moves and finishes for you to try out. This page continues the Mortal Kombat Trilogy character breakdown, this time featuring the slightly updated Striker, the robotic version of Smoke, and the classic ninja, Sub-Zero. First up is Striker, who's apparently been tweaked since MK3. While the reviewer notes he's still a bit on the slow side and his grenades aren't always reliable, his toss move is highlighted as a good starter for combos. He's got a range of finishes, including a bomb fatality, a taser fatality, and even an animality where he turns into a Trex. Next is Cybersmoke, who's essentially the same as his human counterpart but with some extra death moves. Despite the additions, the writer feels this metallic version is a bit sluggish compared to the human ninja. Still, he packs moves like the spear and teleport uppercut, and his finishes include the Planet Destruct and a bomb pill fatality. Finally, there's Sub-Zero, who's back in his much preferred blue ninja outfit, thankfully ditching that rather suspect MK3 look. His moves are described as practical and easy to pull off, though the fatalities are deemed a tad dull. There's also a cheeky comment about not being scared of his big blue glowing circle thingy, but finding his lycra trousers slightly concerning. This page kicks off with the boss character Motaro, the rather confused-looking centaur chap wearing trousers and sporting sheep horns. The reviewer reckons he's a bit too simple tactically, and perhaps shouldn't have been included. Still, he's got a fireball, a toss, a sweep, a grab and smack, and a teleport to mess about with. Warrington Nithorkru. Next up is the classic Sub-Zero, back in his proper blue ninja gear, looking much better than the previous page's mention of the MK3 look. His moves like freeze, slide, and ground freeze are simple and effective. He's got a couple of fatalities, including a head rip, censored here, naturally, and an ice pick, plus a brutality and a babality. The caption jokes about him finally ditching the excessive makeup. Finally, there's a handy section called Combat Morphs, giving you the button presses needed to transform into various characters during gameplay. It lists codes for almost everyone, including Cyrax, Ermac, Jax, Kano, Kitana, Liu Kang, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, and many more. Gives you plenty of options for switching things up in a fight. This page is a full-page advert for PC Power magazine. It declares itself the PC mag for the real gamer, and highlights that the latest issue, featuring Crush, Kill and Destroy, and other previews/reviews, is on sale now for only £4.99, including an explosive CD. This page takes a look at Nintendo's aquatic racer, Wave Race 64. The headline poses a rather cheeky question about whether you're more at home on a lilo than a jet ski, suggesting this game might be a stunner, but also possibly a bit tricky to master. We see plenty of the game in action, with screenshots showing off the jet skis and riders speeding across the water. There are details about the publisher and developer, which funnily enough is Nintendo themselves on both counts, and it's confirmed as a racing game for 1 or 2 players. Looks like the price and release date are still up in the air at this point in time, but they seem pretty impressed with what they've seen so far. This page dives deeper into Wave Race 64, following on from the preview, and gets straight to the crucial point of who you'll be hitting the waves with. It turns out the first big decision isn't whether you can stay upright, but which of the 4 races you're going to pick, as they all have distinct stats from handling to top speed. There's a handy chart laying out the differences, highlighting skill levels ranging from beginner to advanced, with a strong nudge towards a telly Stewart if you're just starting out. But it doesn't stop there, oh no. You can also mess about with your watercraft settings in the custom job section. You're advised to try the standard setup first, which is sound advice, before diving into tweaking things like handling, light for easy turns, heavy for wider arcs, engine, dash for quick starts, top end for speed freaks, and grip, loose for speed but less stability, tight for control but slower overall. There are plenty of screenshots showing off the action on the water and the customization menu itself. It's all about finding that sweet spot between speed and control to dominate the choppy seas. This page continues the Wave Race 64 deep dive, starting off with a crucial tip, timing your start. Apparently, hitting the accelerate button just as the announcer yells go is the key to getting a perfect start and reaching maximum speed instantly. Miss it, and you'll be playing catch-up right from the off. It then moves on to the courses and difficulty levels. The game serves up the same selection of locations across normal, hard, and expert difficulties, though expert throws in a bonus course, the rather chilly-sounding Glacier Coast, and unlocks the ability to race all courses backwards once you've conquered the Expert Championship. Speaking of championships, there's a breakdown of how you progress. It's not just about winning. You need to score a certain number of points in each round to qualify for the next, with the point requirements naturally increasing as you move through the tournament and up the difficulty levels. Winning the championship on one difficulty unlocks the next, culminating in the Expert Tournament, where you can then unlock those reverse tracks. Loads of gameplay screenshots pepper the page, showing off the gates you need to navigate, and the on-screen display elements like score, time, and speed. Looks like there's plenty to keep you busy on the virtual waves. The Sunny Beach Jet Ski Course Guide details 3 difficulty levels. Normal involves navigating slalom gates with a tighter final turn. Hard adds significantly tighter gates and mines on the final straight. Expert features more mines, extremely tight final turn gates, and even suggests skipping the final gate on the last lap for speed. The guide also highlights the course as a good spot for time trials, optimizing craft settings. Numerous gameplay screenshots illustrate key moments, like hitting max power and navigating gates. This page dives into the Sunset Bay course in Wave Race 64. It's described as a favorite in the office, offering interesting waves and straights perfect for busting out tricks when you're ahead. Keep an eye out for the killer whale that makes an appearance. They break down the course across its 3 difficulty levels. Normal is a great introduction, helping you learn to use the waves and find those sneaky shortcuts, even suggesting cutting the very last gate. Hard ramps it up by adding a gate on the main straight and scattering mines about, making that last gate skip and no-go, and tightening things up around the jump. Expert mode throws even more gates and mines into the mix, rearranging things to make it seriously tricky, especially needing to hit that jump at an angle to get through the gates. You'll really need to master using the waves here to navigate safely. The page is packed with screenshots showing off the golden hues of the sunset course and illustrations of the jet skis and characters, giving you a good look at the action. This Wave Race 64 guide tackles the challenging Drake Lake course. Early attempts to catch ducks prove futile. The primary difficulty lies in the obscuring mist and water reflections. Normal mode focuses on choosing a route around an island, with a slightly faster but more challenging right option. Hard mode adds a tricky gate among the posts. Expert mode introduces even more gates, emphasizing the importance of a consistent, practiced route. Screenshots and a track map illustrate key sections and challenges. This page dives into the Marine Fortress course in Wave Race 64. Looks like this one's a bit of a beast, described as a tall order, thanks to wild waves and plenty of obstacles. For normal mode, the key is navigating a big wave right at the start, and then tackling the first two right-hand corners carefully. You need to thread the gates tightly but don't clip the wall, obviously. The tough and hard mode throws in a shortcut on the second lap. A big gate opens as you approach, but you have to time it right, almost a leap of faith if you're leading. Keep an eye out for extra floating boxes on this course. Expert mode just piles on more boxes, including some in that shortcut passage. Otherwise, it's the same layout as hard. The biggest challenge is judging the first massive wave to jump a barrier. Miss it, and you'll wish for a parachute. Loads of screenshots show off the action and some of the obstacles you'll be battling against. Good luck with this one, you'll need it. This page takes us to the Port Blue course in Wave Race 64. Apparently, nobody knows where the blue bit comes from, which is a bit odd, but the course itself is pitched as good for everyone, from newbies to the seasoned pros. On normal, you'll hit the tunnels first. They're straight, thankfully, so just glide through. Just keep an eye out for those floating oil drums between them. They're a bit sneaky and easy to get caught up on. There's also a circular screenshot showing the player entering one of these tunnels. Hard mode adds a few extra gates and introduces a shortcut. This shortcut takes you through a different, shorter tunnel to the right of the first one, cutting out the area you'd normally traverse. Handy if you know what you're doing. Okay. Now, expert mode is where it gets serious. That shortcut is no longer optional. The standard route is shut off. Plus, the ramps at the end are completely unavoidable now. You've got to approach them just right to land cleanly and get through the next gates without losing momentum. Get it wrong, and you'll lose precious time. The rest of the page is filled with screenshots, showing various points on the course, giving you a visual guide to some of the trickier sections and jumps. Looks like you'll need decent craft control for this one. The next page dives straight into the Southern Island course in Wave Race 64. It's touted as a superb and varied track, changing each lap thanks to the tide going out, and apparently packed with great shortcuts, perfect for knocking seconds off your time. On normal, you've got a rather nifty trick on the first lap involving a ramp and a submarine stunt to duck under a pier, shaving off a chunk of the course. Don't get too attached though, because the tide's out on later laps, making that shortcut disappear. Hard mode cranks it up a notch. The waves get noticeably bigger, making tricky areas even more challenging. You'll need to be pretty precise to navigate some sections without getting beached. Expert is where the difficulty really bites. The gates are squashed closer together, and you'll need to rely on your wave handling skills to stay on track. If you've made it this far, the game reckons you've probably got the craft control sorted anyway. The page is littered with screenshots showcasing the course's features, and a stylish image of one of the game's racers on their jet ski. Seems like mastering the waves, and those tide changes is key here. This page plunges us into Wave Race 64's Twilight City, described as a poser's heaven, loaded with trick opportunities in a frankly amazing setting. It's flagged as an unlikely but superb bonus course, so you know it's a bit special. Warrington Norgrut. The defining feature here is the abundance of jumps. You can nail the first ramp straight away for a hefty shortcut. The course is essentially built around these jumps, which also help you avoid the mines helpfully scattered about. Missing a ramp isn't the end of the world, but it'll definitely cost you time and let your rivals catch up. Step up to hard, and the course gets narrower, making those vital jumps a touch trickier to line up perfectly. On expert, the waves get significantly bigger, which completely changes how you approach the jumps. That main shortcut ramp at the start? It's been moved right up against a wall. The advice is sound. If you don't clear it first time, don't bother trying again. Just take the normal route unless you fancy a head-on collision with the wall. It's another course where mastering the unique environment and wave physics is crucial, albeit with a heavy emphasis on hitting those jumps just right. This page dives into the Glacier Coast course on Wave Race 64, telling you to top up your antifreeze, and suggesting this sport is primarily for fair weather enthusiasts. This one's an expert course, apparently quite different from the others, with unique obstacles you haven't seen before. The main challenge mentioned is a sloping piece of ice at the end of the first straight. You need to get to one side of it to take the right line. Going left is easiest but slower. Going right takes a bit longer. Just before you hit that ice sheet, there's a narrow passage. The key is to keep left, then turn right before you hit the ice. Once you're on it, you can't turn, so lining up your approach to make it through the gate at the end is crucial. Watch out for the small icebergs. They shatter when you hit them, but will still knock you off your craft if you're going at any decent speed. The page also shows a grid of small in-game screenshots, giving you a visual tour of the course and some of the challenges, including the ice sections and obstacle gates, all presented with the game's UI showing time, lap, and speed. It certainly looks a bit chilly compared to Twilight City. This page dives into the world of showing off in Wave Race 64, with a guide to tricks and stunts. Perfect for taunting those lagging opponents, it covers several ways to get airborne and look like a total pro. The flip is apparently dead easy. Just push up then down on the stick as you launch off a ramp. It scores well and keeps your speed up so you won't end up eating seaweed. Combining the flip and barrel roll gives you the flip roll. Hold a diagonal off the ramp, then pull back to the opposite one in the air. Tricky landing but high score potential if you pull it off. Warrington knee. The barrel roll itself requires pushing either left or right off the ramp, then pulling back the opposite way. You need a bit of control in the air, mind, don't want to stray off course. Then there's the submarine, which sounds a bit silly really. Pull up, then push the front down to go underwater. Useful for cutting corners or getting stunt points. Less useful for breathing, I imagine. Finally, the somersault lets you stand up on the jet ski. Release the throttle momentarily, rotate the control stick, then hold up as you accelerate. Sounds flashy? Looks cool? Easy to pull off for those extra trick points? Plenty of screenshots accompany each trick description, showing the various stages of these watery acrobatics. This Wave Race 64 Masterclass details advanced stunts. The double flip requires extended airtime, potentially achievable as a triple on the Glacier Coast ramp. Riding backwards involves releasing throttle and spinning the stick clockwise, allowing for steering. A handstand is performed by quickly pushing the control stick down and up. The dolphin cheat unlocks a dolphin riding ability after completing specific stunts in stunt mode, and then activating it in championship mode warm-up. Finally, changing character colors is possible by holding the control stick up when selecting a character. This page shows the cover of Total Internet magazine, branding itself the Essential Internet magazine. The main draws seem to be the definitive web directory, packing in reviews and lists of over 550 websites. They're also getting serious about online security, with a feature titled The Great Internet Swindle, warning readers about potential rip-offs on the net. On the tech front, they're exploring how the web goes 3D, digging into virtual reality and the latest advancements in that space. There's also a review section pitting various PDAS and handheld workstations against each other, helping you pick the right one. And if that wasn't enough, there's a competition with over £2,500 worth of prizes up for grabs. Grab your copy for £3.95. This page is all about mastering the skies in Pilotwings 64. The massive title grabs your attention, promising tips to turn you into a flying ace. It specifically highlights techniques for the rocket pack, hang glider, and gyrocopter, which are the main disciplines in the game. You can see the colorful cast of characters standing proudly at the bottom, ready to take flight. Above them are several screenshots showing off the gameplay in action, giving you a glimpse of the challenges and environments you'll be navigating. There's also a handy little box with the essential game stats, like it's published and developed by Nintendo, supports one player, was out now back then, and is indeed a flying game. Looks like they're diving deep into helping you nail those tricky maneuvers. This page continues, the Pilotwings 64 Lovin', jumping straight into the age-old question, which pilot is best for the job? It breaks down each event, helpfully suggesting Birdman is best with Lark, Cannonball with Robin, skydiving and hang glider with Goose, rocket belt with Ibis, gyrocopter with Hawk, and jumblehopper with Kiwi. So if you're struggling, maybe you're just using the wrong avatar, eh? Cannonball with Robin. Underneath the recommended characters there's a massive beginner class title, suggesting these are the first steps to mastering the game. The whole crew is pictured below the title, looking rather pleased with themselves. The page then dives into specific tips for some beginner events. For the rocket pack, it advises popping the balloon, using the radar and hitting the landing pad, suggesting the Z button for a soft touch. Nobody likes a rough landing. The hang glider section tells you to ride the first thermal and nail those rings, using the blue button to slow down. And for the gyrocopter, it's all about accelerating through the rings by distance and setting up a gentle deceleration for landing. Screenshots accompany each section, showing off the various challenges like the landing pad, the balloon target, and navigating the rings. It's a solid guide to getting started in the wild blue yonder. This page takes us up a notch with the class of challenges in Pilotwings 64. We're still soaring with the hang glider, whirring in the gyrocopter, and blasting off with the rocket pack. For the hang glider in Class A, it's about mastering the photo op by catching that thermal and getting the flame nicely framed before tackling the rings and heading for a graceful landing. The gyrocopter steps up its game, not just navigating rings using that handy radar, but also bringing out the big guns for some target destruction using the Z button for missiles. And the rocket pack? It's a race through rings against the clock, followed by a tricky landing sequence on floating pads guided by your radar. The page provides helpful screenshots for each step, showing you exactly what to look out for. From lining up that perfect photo to nailing those missile shots and finding your landing spot, definitely gives you a solid steer on what's required to pass these slightly tougher tests. Pilotwings 64's Class B challenges increase difficulty. Hang glider challenges involve thermal management and aerial photography at increasing altitudes. Rocket pack challenges include balloon popping, ring timing, and a bizarre ball-in-a-goal objective. Screenshots provide visual aids for each challenge, highlighting the precision needed. Borrington Warwick. Pilotwings 64's Class B gyrocopter challenges involve using the radar to navigate rings, Task A, track missiles, Task B, and defeat the Mechahawk boss, Task C. Recommended characters are Lark or Kiwi. Class C rocket pack challenges include a fast cavern flight, Task A, pushing a balloon to a goal, Task B, and precisely landing on floating platforms, Task C. Hawk or Robin are recommended. Screenshots are included for each challenge. The next page dives into more Pilotwings 64 tips, starting with the hang glider. For staying aloft, the best bet is Goose or Ibis, finding those thermals to gain altitude in Task A. Don't worry about the clock here, just get high. Task B has you weaving through 8 rings for points, so keep an eye on your altitude and scout for more thermals. Task C is all about being a virtual paparazzi, snapping shots of Missy, the cruise ship and the space shuttle. Use the radar to find them, then line up those perfect, centered shots for maximum points, especially on the shuttle. Then we move on to the gyrocopter, where Hawk or Robin are your recommended pilots this time. Task A is a ring challenge, fly through the blue ones and collect bonus rings too. The radar is your best friend for locating the next one. For Task B, it's balloon popping time. Take down 20 of the 30 by either ramming or shooting. Try grouping them up before unleashing your arsenal. Finally, Task pits you against the Mechahawk again. Attacking from high up helps dodge those pesky ice chunks. And remember, the thing's invincible underwater, so save your missiles. Plenty of screenshots on show to guide you through these aerial adventures. The next page continues the Pilotwings 64 tips, shifting focus to the extra courses unlocked after completing all the main missions. These aren't exactly a walk in the park, designed to push your skills. You've got Cannonball, recommending Hawk or Robin, where you're firing at targets. Remember to account for the wind to set up your next shot properly. Then there's Skydiving, best tackled by Goose or Ibis, requiring a perfect formation before you stick that landing run, by tapping away at the blue button. The screenshot shows the crucial in-game timer and compass for this one. Jumblehopper brings Hawk or Robin back into the action. This involves using the radar to find targets and timing your jumps just right. Apparently 45 degrees is the magic angle for maximum distance. The screenshot gives you a peek at the rather unique environment. Finally, the page reveals there are actually 3 different endings in the game, depending on how thoroughly you've conquered the courses. Complete the regular missions for the morning ending. Step it up and get gold medals on everything, regular and extra, for the noon ending. And if you're utterly dedicated, with perfect scores across the board, you'll earn the night ending. Time to get perfecting. This page moves on to some rather cheeky cheats for Pilotwings 64. You know, for when the standard challenges just aren't enough. First up, a rather nifty warp between the cities. Apparently you can zip between Seattle, Florida, New York and San Francisco. Grab the rocket belt and land near the Space Needle in Seattle on a specific square, then fly into a hangar through the top half of the gap. Get it wrong, and you're staying put. Exiting that hangar takes you to Florida. Do it again, and you're back in Seattle. For the New York to San Francisco hop, you need the jetpack. Head to Central Park, find a specific green building, land inside, and fly out the opposite door. Simple as that, apparently. The screenshots show the rocket belt hovering around various city locations. Then there's the frankly bizarre Wario for President cheat. In cannon mode, firing at Mario's face on Mount Rushmore triggers a surprise. The camera pans out, and poof, Wario's mug replaces Mario's. You can also achieve this national disgrace by shooting Mario's nose with the gyrocopter. The screenshots confirm this surreal transformation, showing Mount Rushmore before and after Wario makes his presidential bid. Clearly, the developers had a bit of fun with this one. Pilot Wing's 64 tips reveal secrets for mastering the skies. Unlimited fuel can be obtained by landing in a specific parking lot in little states. Hidden Birdman stars are scattered across the game world. One is found in a cove on Crescent Island, another under an arch on Holiday Island, and others near waterfalls on Everfrost Island and Central Park, NYC. The tips encourage exploration, showcasing screenshots of the game's interface and characters in various locations. This page unveils the secrets in the cheat zone. If you're finding your favorite N64 titles a bit tricky, fear not, because we've got some goodies for you. First up is Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, hailed as one of the best games seen. You can unlock all sorts of madness like pen and ink mode, a bonkers disco mode with dancing enemies, spirit mode for invincibility, infinite lives, unlimited ammo, and even unlock all weapons right off the bat using various codes. Just pop them into the cheat screen, and a handy menu appears to toggle them on and off. Below that, we've got some tips for cruising USA, apparently adding a much-needed breath of new life to the racer. You can get access to courses usually only available when cruising the whole USA, like Golden Gate Park, Indiana, and San Francisco, just by holding down specific button combinations on the course select screen. Ever fancied cruising in something other than a standard car? Well, you can unlock hidden vehicles like a Jeep, a school bus, and yes, even the police car, by holding buttons over certain cars on the selection screen. And for a bit of fun with the police car, or school bus, you can even get flashing lights and a siren, by getting a hot time on a track, and fiddling about on the hot times list. Handy stuff if you're struggling. This cheat sheet continues with more tips. For cruising USA, get flashing lights by scrolling down and holding left for 35 seconds. Mario Kart 64 tips include racing against course ghosts. Beat specific times on Luigi, Mario, and Royal Raceways. The boost trick, Power Slide, involves holding R, steering opposite, and releasing when the smoke turns red for a speed boost. Unlocking mirrored tracks requires winning every cup in the 150cc class. Finally, a speed burst at the start requires perfect timing as the lights turn blue. This page is absolutely packed with cheats for NBA Hangtime, giving you all the unfair advantages you could ever want. First up, they've got the lowdown on how to unlock a ton of hidden players. Some proper obscure ones in there too, apparently. Just whack in their name and a specific pin. Brilliant! And get this, you can even clone players. Ever wanted 2 Dennis Rodmans on your team with those ridiculous hairdos? Just enter the player's last name, and a simple 0000 for the pin. They've helpfully listed who you can duplicate, featuring plenty of big names from back in the day. There's also a bunch of codes to access secret play modes and other effects, entered at the tonight's matchup screen. Think baby-size players, no music, unlimited turbo, hyperspeed, and even turning off pesky CPU assistance. Plus, you can get big or huge heads with some simple button combos. Borika, fancy leaving your team choice to fate? There's a random team select code for that. And for the truly important things in life, you can even change Dennis Rodman's hair color on the team select screen just by pressing the pass button. Essential knowledge, that. Loads of ways to mess about with the game here, fair play. This page is your essential guide to getting ahead in a few classic N64 titles, offering cheats and tips for G-League, Pilot Wing 64, and Shadows of the Empire. First up, for G-League you can unlock 2 extra teams and, rather amusingly, get those big heads on your players, much like the giant noggins we saw for NBA Hangtime on the last page. There are codes listed for both if you fancy a bit of silliness. Apparently it's nicely daft. You can see screenshots of the football action here. Then it's on to Pilot Wing 64. An excellent flying sim apparently. They spill the beans on finding the Birdman stars, scattered across various islands like Holiday, Crescent, Little States, and Arctic. The jetpack is recommended for the hunt. Plus, there's a cracking tip for easily bagging a perfect 100 score on Jumble Hopper, using a teleport trick via the building doorway. There are screenshots showing the flying gameplay and the Birdman mode. Finally, Shadows of the Empire gets some love, specifically focusing on collecting those sometimes pesky challenge points. Doing so on easy nets you the Lebo scanner, while holding the camera button lets you briefly fly as an X-Wing or TIE fighter. Collecting them on hard difficulty gives you a handy 30 seconds of invincibility and all weapons, and on Jedi, the Wampas will actually help you out by attacking enemies. The page shows images of characters like Boba Fett and a Stormtrooper, along with an Outrider screenshot. This page is all about mastering Wave Race 64, giving you the lowdown on unlocking modes and pulling off some slick moves. First up, if you're good enough to get first place overall on expert difficulty, you'll unlock the reverse mode, letting you race the tracks backwards. Mad. Then there's a neat trick for racking up massive scores on stunt courses by pausing right after a stunt to apparently multiply your points, ensuring the announcer's irritating banter is the only thing you hear. For two-player antics, you can apparently use a cheat to make both players race as the same character in the same outfit, adding a bit of confusion, I suppose. There's a whole section on new stunts, detailing how to pull off double and triple flips from ramps. Sounds tricky, better get plenty of speed. They also explain the helicopter stunts, and how to transition it into a flip. Want to feel like a marine biologist? There are dolphin tricks listed, covering various maneuvers like handstands, spins, stands, somersaults, rolls, flips, and dives. Plus, you can become a dolphin racer yourself after completing challenges in Dolphin Park, riding a dolphin that apparently squeaks across the finish line. Lastly, a speed burst tip advises pressing and holding the gas just before the go for a perfect start. The page features screenshots showing the jet ski action, stunts, and the score/speed display. This page details cheats and tips for Mario 64 and Killer Instinct Gold. Mario 64 features bizarre glitches like the hat trick and carrying a rabbit using a door trick, as well as turning butterflies into lives or bombs. A second controller allows control of the ending camera. Killer Instinct Gold lets you see the ending credits without beating the game, unlock the sky stage, access all options, and even play as Gargos, all by entering specific button commands in the character profiles. Screenshots show the bizarre and exciting results of these exploits. This page is all about getting your hands on past issues of Total 64. If you missed out the first time, you can snag back issues for £4.95 a pop, but only while stocks last, so best be quick. The big draw here is clearly the launch issue, touted as a roaring success. It packed in a free 68-page guide to Super Mario 64, which makes sense given we were just looking at cheats for that game. Plus, it promises a full as of forthcoming N64 titles and the latest reviews and solutions for the top games. There's a handy order form right here, asking for your details and how you want to pay, whether by check, postal order, or credit card. Just fill it out and send it off to secure those essential N64 reads. The next page gives us a sneak peek at what issue 3 has in store, hitting the shelves on April 30th. Front and center is the big review of Doom 64, promising a devilish good time. They even dare you to come and avenue a go. If football's more your thing, there's a guide for FIFA 64, complete with a cheeky nod to scoring goals with the line, "Stick one in the onion bag." And if that wasn't enough, they've crammed in features on Top Gear Rally, the transforming mechs of Robotech, Crystal Dreams, and the colourful platforming of Freak Boy, all backed up with some tasty screenshots. Plus, for those still battling through the prehistoric jungles, they're offering up a solution for Turok, Dinosaur Hunter, helpfully illustrated with Turok showing off his dino riding skills and a glimpse of the action. Looks like a packed issue. This page loudly declares Mario's back, with a brilliant image of Wingcap Mario soaring into view, celebrating the arrival of Super Mario 64. The article enthusiastically covers the incredible launch success of the Nintendo 64 in the UK, proudly stating that the initial stock of 20,000 units vanished in just 48 hours, a clear sign of pent-up demand. They point out how launch titles like Super Mario 64 and Turok, Dinosaur Hunter immediately shot to the top of the charts, cementing the N64's position as a serious contender. The magazine confidently predicts a new console battle royale, this time pitting the N64 against the Sony PlayStation. Excitingly, they announced that a giveaway competition will kick off in the very next issue. The page serves as the editorial sign-off for issue 2, accompanied by the masthead listing the team who put the magazine together. This page delves into the unknown, moving away from the usual gaming fare to investigate alien abductions under the banner of sightings. Clearly the truth is out there, and Total 64 was happy to chase it. Featured prominently is an interview with Whitley Strieber, a world-famous abductee, alongside former military analyst Bob Dean, who promises to expose secret files. The page also touches on folklore connections to alien visitors, Greys, debates whether the X-Files is fact or fiction, and even sneakily previews the new Star Wars trilogy. It's all presented against a cosmic backdrop, urging readers to explore the paranormals alongside their N64 adventures. This page serves as the back cover, hitting you with a dramatic image of a menacing dinosaur confronting a determined-looking human warrior. It's all rather epic, isn't it? Dominated by the bold white logo for Total 64, making it clear exactly what you're holding. Down at the bottom it gives you the skinny on the folks behind it all. Rapid Publishing, complete with their address in Newton Abbot, Devon, and all the necessary contact details like phone, fax and their website. A final flourish to wrap up the issue,